Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to Ramadan Radio. You are listening on 87.9 FM and you are listening now to the Pledge show where we're going to be having a number of hours supporting a very interesting project and a very valuable project in our community, MEND. So first of all, thank you for joining us. My name is Aman Ali and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. And we hope that today, with your support, inshallah, we're going to do some amazing work today to support the work of MEND. Just to give you a heads up, we've got a very special pledge from MEND today. They're looking for 500 unique supporters to give £10 each to support the work of MEND today. So that's 500 of you guys listening in now, whether you're outside driving somewhere, or whether you're at home just lying back and reading some Quran, or maybe listening to the radio. If our sisters or aunties are listening in the kitchen, then make sure you get your brothers and the fathers to get into the kitchen and give you a hand as well. Listen to the radio while you're all helping each other prepare for Ramadan. So on today's, I've got a very special guest with me, who is the CEO of MEND, alhamdulillah, and we're going to be introducing the work of MEND to you. Many of you may have heard of us. MEND stands for Muslim Engagement and Development, and it's a project that's been serving the Muslim community for about 5 or 6 years now. And I'm hoping in this first hour we're going to introduce you to the world of MEND to allow you to know a bit more about the work that we do, in order to understand how you can get involved and how you can support us as well. So without further ado, I want to bring in my guest. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you doing?
Alaikum salam. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very good. Azubay, how's your Ramadan going so far?
Alhamdulillah, nice. It's nice to be able to go to Tarawih this year.
Yeah, amazing. I went to Regent's Park Mosque yesterday in London, and I prayed outside, and it was like a really nice vibe, the cool breeze, and the Qira'ah as well. First time I went there, and yeah, so many young people, so many people that were there, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. No, it's nice. Alhamdulillah.
How's the vibe being? I know you're from Birmingham. How's the vibe being in Birmingham?
Birmingham is always excellent, mashallah. Yeah, alhamdulillah, the masajid are full as usual. A lot of masajid doing double tarawih jamaats, with booking systems and all sorts of things. So yeah, alhamdulillah, it's been buzzing.
Good stuff, good stuff. So you're obviously the CEO at MEND, a very important role within the organization. So tell us in a few words, what is MEND, and how would you, if you were to explain to our listeners what the work of MEND is, how would you describe it to them?
I think, simply put, I would say that MEND is a campaigning organization that campaigns against Islamophobia, to reduce Islamophobia across the UK, and to take on the caseload, and to take on the work with victims of Islamophobia, whether that be in the discrimination field or whether that be hate crime, and be a support for Muslims when they've come under Islamophobic attack. So yeah, that's MEND, an organization that fights Islamophobia.
Correct, fantastic. So today we're going to be spending a number of hours meeting various members of the MEND team, volunteers, members of staff who do various important roles within the organization as well. And I asked really to our listeners today, and anyone who's joining us on Facebook and YouTube as well, is that we're looking for 500 special supporters today, each to donate £10 towards the work of MEND. And the way you can donate is to visit the LaunchGood website. So if you visit launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND, that's the page that we are going to be collecting funds today for the work of MEND. So that's launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND. And once again, we're looking for 500 special supporters of the work of MEND today, donate £10 each. So whether it's yourself, if you can get your family and friends to get involved as well, then that's what we're looking for today. And we're really hoping that you're going to show some love today and show us some support as well. If you're passionate about the work of MEND and you're familiar with the work of MEND and you want to call in and tell us why you're supporting the work of MEND, or why others should maybe support the work of MEND, then you can call in as well. And the number to call in is 077 614 60614. The number is 077 614 60614. So
definitely call in. Don't leave me talking to Aman for the next hour on my own.
Yeah, I mean, me and Azubay know each other very well, so we could talk on for an hour, but it'd be lovely to get everyone else joining in as well. And if you're on Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, do drop us a comment and chat in the chat, and we'll definitely pick that up as well.
Do you want to just give that number again one last time?
Yeah, so it's 077 614 60614.
If you want to talk to us about MEND, about the work of MEND, about your association with MEND, if you want to ask us about Islamophobia, if you want to ask us about, if you want to talk about, your experiences and why it's so important to fight Islamophobia, then please do come on, ring us, ask us any questions that you have. Inshallah, we're here for you.
Alhamdulillah. So, Brother Azhar, tell us, this year has been obviously an interesting year with COVID. How has MEND coped in the last year?
It's been difficult. I won't say it's not. And a whole load of things happen at the same time. So MEND's campaign. So MEND has various spheres of work. We have campaigning work where we go out into the Muslim community. We talk to stakeholders, police, MPs, politicians, and others. We organize events within the community where we bring together the Muslim community with politicians and police and others to try to ensure that our community is lobbying all those stakeholders and is ensuring that we're getting the best for our whole community, and whether it be masjids, whether it be Muslim schools, whether it be Muslim individuals, etc. And a lot of that work suddenly came to a halt, with lockdown in March of last year, and we've had to adapt, and we adapted fast. So we moved a lot of work online. Our office in London, we closed it, started home working. We started having a lot of Zoom webinars and seminars, and started using our Facebook more for live events to get out to the community. And then at the same time, sort of the casework that we do, you would expect that people locked away at home and, during lockdowns that there would be less Islamophobia, but unfortunately, there was an uptick in Islamophobic attacks and as well. So we started getting more and differing types of casework within the organization. So for example, with lots of people being at home and not at work or working from home, a lot of neighbor abuse went up, and we started getting more cases than normal of neighbor abuse, where non-Muslim neighbors would be abusing a Muslim neighbor, and there was some horrific sort of stories that came into us on that. So lots of change happened, but lots of adaptations happened on our side.
Yeah, because usually, prior to COVID, a lot of the cases that we would receive would be usually on public transport or on the streets. And like you said, we would have hoped that maybe Islamophobia would have reduced and kind of going to go away because everyone's at home. But like you said, unfortunately, although racism and Islamophobia is not in the streets, it's still in our communities, and a big problem for us in the UK.
And so much more online abuse, with people sat at home, with people furloughed, with extra time on their hands. You got more online trolling, more online abuse, and there is already a huge amount of online abuse of Muslims anyway. Pre-lockdown, we have stats from the organization Demos that says that there's roughly around about 400 per day Islamophobic just tweets here, from the UK on average. And that's just tweets, and imagine where that's gone with lockdown, people with more time at home, furloughed, not working, and so trolling of our website, of other Muslim websites, and Twitter, and on Facebook, and all the various social media has gone up. There's been this huge increase, especially in online abuse of Muslims.
Yeah, we see it even before kind of COVID kicked in. The social media world was a big concern, and like you said, a lot of it has probably gone on to there now because people are at home. But we see Islamophobia manifest itself in so many ways in the UK. What does the climate of Islamophobia look like in the UK? How did it kind of manifest itself?
Well, we talked about social media, and that's just a complete cesspit. When it comes to Islamophobia, the virulent Islamophobia there, where people are calling for killing of Muslims, and they're calling for eviction of Muslims from the UK, and calling for killing of Muslim women, and all sorts of awful things being said on social media on a daily basis. But unfortunately, it's firstly bad enough that it's there, but unfortunately, it's not just social media. So the mainstream media, unfortunately, pushes and promotes Islamophobia as well. So as an example, if you think about the amount of times throughout the pandemic, there have been pictures of Muslim women in niqab and hijab in articles about people not socially distancing or spreading of COVID, etc., associating the spread of COVID with Muslims. And that's bad here, where there was a lot of attempts made several times to spread that message. So I'll give an example. There was a couple of newspapers, not going to name them just now, but there was more than one newspaper which ran articles saying that essentially COVID spread in the UK was because of Pakistan. That the cases that you know, and they took a snapshot of a week when there was barely any travel from anywhere else, and said that, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 40% of COVID cases were from Pakistan, and it was like a 5-day snapshot. But if you look over a period of a couple of months, actually, you know, there was probably like 30 imported cases from Pakistan, and I don't know, 5,000 from France and 7,000 from Italy. And, you know, if you look at it, the numbers are just irrelevant. But because of that interest in trying to associate COVID with Muslims and Muslim nations, unfortunately, even during a pandemic, when newspapers should be concentrating on, you know, how do we get through this together, there is this division being pushed by mainstream newspapers. So definitely there is a climate of Islamophobia being created by some politicians, definitely by many mainstream media outlets, and definitely on social media.
Correct. I mean, and even despite all of those challenges that we face, I think in the past year we've done a lot to adapt the work of MEND that we've done, and actually do a lot of positive work as well. A lot of our volunteers got involved with assisting local charities and local projects to assist people who have been suffering from the COVID pandemic, be it kind of giving food parcels or helping members of the NHS, and in so many other ways. What was your response? How did you view the response from the Muslim community in general in regards to COVID?
I think it's really important, and one of the key sort of 4 main drivers that MEND is trying to push, or that we're trying to achieve as an organization, is a real appreciation of the reality and of the contribution of Muslims and Islam to this society. So throughout the pandemic, we highlighted what Muslims were doing. And there's the one thing side for social media and others to sort of push this Islamophobic narrative that Muslims are the cause of COVID, that Muslims are somehow the problem. But actually, we were saying, no, it's not true. And we absolutely push those stories. So we ran a campaign called Heroes of the NHS, where we highlighted the Muslim doctors and Muslim nurses and other Muslim NHS workers who passed away with COVID whilst fighting COVID, you know, who essentially caught COVID whilst trying to protect other people. And, you know, a lot of people were not picking up on this, but, you know, the first 4 or 5 doctors who died from COVID, who had been in the front line of the NHS, you know, protecting others and caught it in that situation were all Muslim, and so many since then. And it's a complete travesty that hasn't been recognized more within the public sphere. And this is something that we were doing as an organization. We joined lots of other Muslim organizations, and our volunteers across the country went out delivering food parcels, you know, delivering care packages to NHS staff, helping with shopping for the elderly, you name it, up and down the country, from Glasgow down to London. MEND volunteers were involved with various things of that nature. But not only that, we were reaching out to Muslim organizations who were also doing similar things and ensuring that their good work was also being showcased, that the community at large could see the absolute positive impact that the Muslim community was having, where, you know, masajid which were closed down during lockdown were being turned into hubs for distributing food within the community, volunteering hubs. You know, more recently, we've had masajid which have opened their doors to become vaccination centers. You know, all of these things, it's important that as a community we showcase that. And this is one of the things that MEND have done across the country, where we've helped masjids and small community organizations put together press releases for their work and make sure that they're out there. I mean, here in Birmingham, we had you know, we had a company that was supplying the materials to men and women in their households to sew PPE for the NHS. And it was, they were producing, in private households, thousands of pieces of PPE, of protective equipment, personal protective equipment for NHS staff for free, that was being given to the NHS and being done by the community here in Birmingham. And I can give you so many other examples like that. So yeah, one of the huge things we did was ourselves as an organization get involved in and sort of pandemic relief efforts, etc. But also, even much more than that, showcase what other Muslim organizations were doing. We produced a large report. We produced a large report on this, on how how Muslims have been helping the whole community during COVID.
Yeah, I think especially with regards to promoting what the community at large has done. I think if you feel like that's a valuable piece of work, because also we always hear the negative side on the media, and it's refreshing when we hear the positive side of the work, that the contribution that Muslim community has made. So if you feel passionate about that and you want to support that work, then definitely donate to the work of Men. Once again, the donation website you need to go to is www.launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend. That's launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend. And today we're looking for 500 special supporters to support the work of Men, to donate £10 each, in order that we can continue promoting the good work that our Muslim community does, in order to change the narrative around the Muslim community in the UK. We hear a lot of negativity in the media, and we want to counteract that. And we want to show a different narrative when it comes to the Muslim community, in that we are positive contributors to society, where that in the NHS, for example, we have so many doctors and nurses who are from the Muslim community, and be it in our schools and on the front line, in every facet in the response of the COVID response, we as a Muslim community have been there. And Men as an organization, we're constantly working with journalists, and we're producing reports to promote that positive work. So if you want to support that work, then once again, visit launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend. So moving on, Azubay, I wanted to ask you a question.
Also, actually, before you do, just to remind people, if you want to call into the show today, 077-614-60614. That's 077-614-60614 if you want to call into the show today.
Yeah, fantastic. That's the number. So we'd love for you to call in and speak to us. Maybe you've interacted with the work of Men before, or you feel like what we're speaking about today, you've got a particular contribution that you want to make, then definitely call in and we'd love to hear from you. Another area that the Men in particular works in, and it was in relation to COVID again, because we had the concern that, especially in the beginning of COVID, that members, the UK government was going to have to what's the word I'm looking for? Have to cremate people because of a lack of burial spaces available for people, because of the sheer number of deaths that were occurring. And it really highlighted the importance of how the Muslim community needs to be involved in politics and media, which is a big part of Men's work. So Azubay, tell us about what happened and how Men were involved in that situation.
It was more than a concern. The coronavirus bill, which came in and became an act of parliament, one of the clauses in there was that if a particular local authority felt overwhelmed by the number of COVID deaths, etc., that they could forcibly cremate all deceased bodies of all deceased, including Muslims and Christians and others who might be against that. So there was a real possibility of having a law on the statute books here in the UK, this time last year, which essentially would allow local authorities to force cremate, burn after death the bodies of our loved ones, which is completely against every type of, Islamic principle when it comes to how we treat the bodies of the dead. And we picked up on this the moment that bill, was there in public and started a campaign. That campaign was pushed heavily by people like Naz Shah MP, and others within Parliament. So again, having campaigning organizations on the ground, having Muslims in politics, in Parliament, like Naz Shah and others, working collectively with other Muslim organizations, then reaching out to Jewish and other organizations who were also against this. There was a real campaign, and alhamdulillah, that clause was removed from that, with an amendment from that bill. So that danger was pushed back. Now, had that not occurred, we could be in a situation like in Sri Lanka, where they did pass legislation for forced cremation. And from last year until now, they have been forcibly cremating the bodies of Muslims who get COVID. And it's so bad that Muslims who get COVID don't go to hospital. So that so that they're not recorded as a COVID death, because they don't want their loved ones to be cremated. So you have a choice: either you go to hospital to be treated with the possibility you could die and be burnt, have your body burnt, or you stay at home and have a larger chance of passing from COVID. So I mean, it's a real horror story there from Sri Lanka, and alhamdulillah that didn't happen in the UK. The situation here within the UK, the Muslim community within the UK, and our own politicians pushed back on that, and we didn't get to that situation. But these are the sort of important reasons why we need organizations like MEND, fighting for the Muslim community within the public sphere, whether that be in politics, whether that be in liaison with the police forces, whether that be in liaison with the other stakeholders. It's incredibly important to have organizations like MEND out there.
I think it highlights a really important point in that within the Muslim community, we've made immense progress in various areas. Alhamdulillah, we have loads of doctors, we have loads of lawyers, accountants. Alhamdulillah, we've done really well in the sciences and other fields as well. And I think one of the areas we're actually also seeing a growth in, and an area where we're positively contributing to is the world of politics and media. We've seen a lot more Muslim MPs become members of parliament. We've seen a lot more Muslims get into the field of journalism. Why is it so important as a community that we give a lot more attention to that particular area, especially when we're talking about the work of MEND and tackling Islamophobia as well?
I mean, first of all, the stats on that are that yes, you're right, that more Muslims are getting involved in media and politics, but nowhere near the sort of numbers that we should. So, we have around about, I think, 16 Muslim MPs currently in Parliament, whereas actually, as 5% of the population, we should have at least 32 Muslim MPs in Parliament. We have even less members of the House of Lords, and House of Lords has more members than the House of Parliament, so there should be even more Muslim Lords, in excess of 50, I would say. But we're nowhere near those sort of numbers. In the media, we make up, as a community, we make up 5% of the population of this country, and it should be interesting to see what the new census says. Yeah. But according to the last census, we make up around about just under 5% of the population of this country.
So it's about 3 million Muslims, right, in the UK?
Yeah, around about 3 million Muslims in the UK. Now, the number of Muslims in frontline journalism is like 0.01% of journalists. It's incredibly, I mean, it's minuscule compared to, so actually Muslims in media are very, very few and far between, and it's an area which we need to get involved in much more, because politics is where the legislation is made that affects your community, and media is the place that creates the narrative around your community. And we can keep complaining that the media tells lies about Muslims, but when's that going to change? It's going to change when Muslims own media outlets. It's going to change when there's more Muslims in the editorial rooms, in the newsrooms, and sitting there. If there's an editorial room with 20 editors in there and 5 of them are Muslim, one of the others is less likely to run that article saying that all Muslims are child groomers, when we know that's not true.
1 in 5 Muslims have sympathy for jihadis.
Yeah.
In the past.
I mean, ridiculous headlines like that, which have been proven to be untrue. I mean, this whole ongoing saga of grooming gangs that gets pushed out into the media again and again and again and again. I mean, a conservative government, which doesn't necessarily have the publicly have the best interests of the Muslims at heart, did research on this, produced a report which they shelved and wouldn't even print for a year, but finally was pushed into the public eye because the media pushed at it. It came out, and what did it say? That Muslims are not disproportionately represented in pedophilia, in grooming gangs, in any of these areas, which it was claimed that it is the case. The media highlight stories about Muslims, and everyone, Muslims included, think, oh my God, Muslims are disproportionately involved in this stuff. Whereas actually all of the evidence, all of the facts, all of the stats say something completely different. That broadly, most communities are in line with their percentages within the society in terms of pedophilia at all levels and all types. And the type of organizations that produced fake reports prior to this, trying to accuse the Muslims, were essentially producing fake news. The reality of the situation, by any real researcher, and now a government report, is that Muslims are not involved in that. So why is it the case that people believe this? Because of a biased and Islamophobic media that has been pushing that, and by a few self-serving politicians who've been pushing that narrative as well. That's why it's so important that Muslims get involved in media and Muslims get involved in politics. And this is actually at the core of MEND's work: empowerment of the Muslim community, especially in the field of politics and media. We did an open letter signed by over 30 Muslim organizations in Scotland, asking every single political party in Scotland to increase the number of Muslim candidates in winnable seats for the Scottish parliamentary elections this year. Just last week, we had a hustings with all of the party leaders: the Greens, the Conservatives, the Scottish National Party, Scottish Labour, the Scottish Liberal Democrats, all five on our hustings, and all of the party leaders agreed to support that pledge. Now, that's the type of work that we need to do in politics to ensure more Muslim representation in politics, and then more Muslim representation in media. We run masterclasses in politics and media across the country to Muslim communities to upskill our communities and ensure that they have the skills to get involved in media and politics. And that's the type of work that MEND does. And if you want to support that work of MEND, then we urge you to donate to this organization at launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND. Is that right, Amin?
That's the one, Ramadan MEND /Ramadan MEND. Alhamdulillah, I'm just looking at the page now. We've had 2 supporters so far support the work of MEND, which is okay, good. I'm hoping more listeners will pick up their phones or pick up their laptops and go to that web page.
Yeah, it's so simple, so easy. Launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND. That's launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND. Go on there. It's just a few simple steps, and donate towards MEND and this good work that we do throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think especially, as Ramadan, when our 5th or 6th day of Ramadan, and every day we read Quran, we're fasting, we're paying Tarawih. An act of charity should also be a regular habit that we're doing on a daily basis as well. So if you haven't given your sadaqah yet for the day, and you're waiting to give that, then we plead to you to support the work of MEND by going to the webpage and giving £10 for the work of MEND. And like as I mentioned earlier, a big part of our work is in educating the Muslim community and assisting them in becoming more aware of how the British political system works in the UK, how we can hold the media to account. A big part of the work that we do and the education program that we do is we train people how they can hold the media to account. So when you see a headline that you clearly can see is factually incorrect or a complete misrepresentation of our community, then what that training that we as MEND offer is that will allow you to very quickly and efficiently complain about that story in a way that the regulator, which is IPSO, will have to take kind of heed of your complaint and make sure that paper apologizes for that error or prints a correction. So if that's the work that you feel like really as a community we need to be involved in, and we want more and more people to be aware of how they can do that, then support the work of MEND today. Azawad, tell us a bit more about kind of the education programs that we as MEND run. You mentioned the politics and media masterclass that we run, but in terms of volunteering for MEND, what is it that volunteers can do on the ground to really impact and tackle Islamophobia that's happening in our communities?
Well, when people get involved in MEND, and we have volunteers, alhamdulillah, we have hundreds of volunteers now in MEND. We've got volunteer teams in Wales, in Cardiff, in Swansea, volunteer teams in Bristol. We have volunteer teams in the Midlands, Birmingham, Black Country, including in Walsall, Sandwell, Wolverhampton, throughout the Midlands, East Midlands as well, Leicester, Nottingham.
I'm waiting for you to mention the London areas.
in the London northwest, east, south of London, all around. I know great team of brothers in Newham and in Waltham Forest and so many different areas of London. You go through into Yorkshire. We've got teams in Leeds. We've got teams in Batley. We've got teams in throughout Kirklees. In fact, we've got people in Manchester, in Bolton, in Preston. Other cities as well. I'm missing them, I'm sure, but across the world, and Leicester, of course, Leicester Sharif. I'm being prompted. Our star team in Leicester, in fact, and Scotland. I mean, we started in MEND in Scotland just over about a year and a half ago, coming up to 2 years now, and as quickly we've established in Glasgow, in Edinburgh, in Falkirk. We've had hustings across those towns. We've had our media masterclasses. So when we have volunteers, we normally train them on Islamophobia and understanding of what Islamophobia is, and then move on to train them in media awareness, our media 4-hour media masterclass, 4-hour politics masterclass, and then those volunteers, they get out into the community, learning those teaching materials and teaching other people, but also holding stalls, doing webinars, doing seminars, having meetings with police forces to encourage them to record Islamophobia correctly, having meetings with local politicians. For example, our team in Leicester, which was mentioned earlier, managed to get a motion passed in the council against Islamophobia. Teams across the country are doing similar sorts of work with their local councils, getting the APPG definition on Islamophobia passed by councils. All sorts of varying work in different parts of the country.
Isn't it also true that they also get involved whenever we have kind of incidents of Islamophobia as well? Those volunteers are usually the first to respond and to assist their local communities as well, and especially when something horrific happens in local communities. Or it might be a case where a school might ban prayer or hijab or something like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, our volunteers, because they're so widespread and across the country, are our eyes and ears on the ground, essentially. And they're the ones. They're the ones who bring these things to us. So before the media picks up on something, before the government and ministers and others, so many times our volunteers have said to us, "There's this issue that's happening over there." And I'll give you an example of that directly from London. We had a school in London not so long ago that decided that it was going to ban hijab and it was going to ban fasting in that school. And that was it. No girl could wear hijab in the school, and no Muslim was allowed to fast during Ramadan in that school. We were contacted immediately by local parents contacting our volunteers who came back to the organization. We started a campaign with the local parents, very much a positive campaign, not sort of shouting and screaming and whatever, but a positive campaign of engagement with the school, writing to them, showing them where actually these were breaches of legislation, of the Equalities Act, etc. And alhamdulillah, very quickly, despite various newspapers running articles in support of the school's action, the school pushed back, and alhamdulillah, the ban was overturned. And had that happened in that one school, and they had managed to get away with it, this could have happened across the country at schools wherever you are now. So alhamdulillah, that was really positive impact of MEND's volunteers on the ground and the actions that they took with the support of the whole organization.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful example of why, if you're listening now, why you should get involved in MEND. If you want to be part of that change, if you want to be amongst those who, when something like this occurs, the story Azubai has just shared with us, that if you want to be part of the efforts to bring about that positive change, then volunteering with MEND is 100% the organization to be part of in order to have that positive change. But also a reason why you should be donating as well, because the teams that we have in London, we've got a team in East London, we've got a team in Central London, we've got a team in South London, and in West London, we've got presence as well. And if you want to join those teams, they're really at the front of engaging with communities to ensure that issues of Islamophobia are dealt with, both making sure that the police deal with it, or if there's local authorities that need to get involved, that they're addressing the issue as well. And so by donating to MEND, you're not just helping the education programs and the outreach and the work with media and politics we do, but your donation is actually going towards helping those volunteers on the ground. And if you think that's a worthwhile cause, then 100% I encourage you all to pick up your phones, get on your laptops, go to launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend and make a small contribution of £10. I've got 3 supporters, alhamdulillah. I want to give a big shout out to Sumaya Abbas, and I want to give a shout out to Ghazala as well, who have supported the work of men. And by the hour, I want to get 10 supporters, inshallah, supporting the work of men. So I've currently got 3 supporters, and I need desperately your help if you're listening now to get onto that link, launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend, and make me a happy person by the end of the hour. I can at least get 10 people in the first hour. Hopefully, you really get the ball rolling, and in the next few hours that we're going to be talking about the work of men, we can really get more people to donate, inshallah. So let's get 7 more supporters. We've got 15 minutes until the hour. Let's get 7 more supporters calling in or donating on launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend. So Azubhai, coming back to kind of the work of men now, and we spoke about kind of how important it is that the volunteers, the work of volunteers on the ground, and how when local issues arise, MEND is there at the forefront. When right at the beginning of something happening, we're there to assist local communities to hopefully bring about a positive outcome when something might happen. What are the reasons are there for people to get involved in MEND and the work that we're doing? How is it that they can get involved as well?
I mean, if people want to get involved, they can go onto the MEND website, mend.org.uk, and just /volunteer, I believe it is. Aman, am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so mend.org.uk/volunteer. If you want to get involved, just go there, sign up, and we'll get you involved in one of your local teams. But this, and it is important that people get involved, because we're a unique organization in that, you know, our USP is that we fight Islamophobia. This is what we do. You know, we don't get involved in tarbiyah programs in general. We don't get involved in tazkiyah programs and running mosques or anything like that. Our members are involved in all of those things, but as an organization, we don't do that. But we support the institutions that do. So whether it's local mosques, and we really don't care about the affiliation, we will support all local masajid if they come under attack, and we will support them in upskilling themselves and their people on media and politics and these things. We will support Muslim charities, ensuring that that they know and that their people know how to be more media savvy, how to be more politics savvy. We will support local Muslim organizations, whether they be Council of Mosques, whether they be women's organizations, youth organizations, scout organizations. Because we're not involved in any of those fields, we will partner up with anybody who's involved in those fields and support them in their work to ensure that their understanding of media, their understanding of politics is up to scratch, to ensure that they work together and with us to push the goals of the Muslim community in that area and nationally, collectively, not in silos, not in isolation, but collectively as a community, we work together to push the interests of our whole community in media and politics, and we do that across the country, and our volunteers do that across the country.
Yeah, and I think it really kind of brings me nicely to the next point, which is this change that we're looking to see. Obviously, MEND's been around for about 5 or 6 years now, and the change. Well, the problem we have, and in my view, Islamophobia is the biggest problem that we have in the UK collectively as a community that we need to work towards tackling. And it's not a change that we're going to see in a matter of days or weeks or even years. It may even be a generational kind of change that's required in order to remedy some of the issues that we're facing as a community. How important is it that we really kind of think about the long-term future of the Muslim community in the UK, especially the future of our children in particular?
I mean, it's so important. We have the situation where, when I was growing up back in the 80s and 90s, there was racism. Especially in the 80s, there was racism, and I believe it had reduced from the time of the 70s, but there was racism around in the 80s against Asian and Black and other communities. In the 90s, a lot of that reduced. and the levels of racism were coming down, the levels of institutional racism were coming down, etc. And we were getting to the situation where we may have by now got to a post-racist society. But instead, what happened was, with the war on terror, with everything that happened in the early 2000s, was that Islamophobia took off hugely. Where now, currently, for example, the Muslims, we make up just under 5% of the population, but around about 50% of all recorded religious hate crime is against Muslims. So around about 50% of the hate crime against any religious community which is reported to the police, so religiously motivated hate crime, is against Muslims. So 5% of the population gets 50% of the religiously motivated hate crime. Now, those levels are too high. And what we need to do is push them right down, because if we don't, and it keeps increasing, because currently it's been increasing year on year by around about 30 to 40% every single year for several years. Now, if it continues like that, life will become very difficult for our children. For our children, we don't want that. We want a situation where our children, where our daughters can wear hijab in school and at work. We want a situation where our sons can grow a beard if they want to, where they can, have halal meat, whether they be men or women, in workplaces, in school, and other places. We want a situation where halal meat isn't banned. So many European countries have now banned either the production of sale of halal meat. Now, we don't want that to happen in the UK, but it's being pushed by some politicians within the United Kingdom. We want the situation where, we don't just have a future in the UK, but we have a Muslim future in the UK, where our future generations can both be British and Muslim, and for that to be an accepted part of their identity. That's really important. It's one of the big things that we're fighting for here.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that as a community we have that long-term outlook, especially in light of the fact that it seems in Europe things are getting tougher and tougher. We see what's happening in France. We've seen the hijab ban in Switzerland as well, and so we're seeing an increasingly hostile environment for Muslims in Europe and in the UK as well. And if we as a community what we need to do as a community is really work towards tackling that kind of direction and reversing some of the negative effects of that lobbying and that organizing that we're seeing across the UK and in Europe as well. And so really important that we support the work of MEND. And I really encourage our listeners, if you're listening, I'm still on 3 supporters. I'm hoping to get 7 more. I've got an iPad next to me, and what I'm doing is every 5 seconds I'm refreshing it, and the numbers are
8 minutes to get 7 more. If you want to donate to the work of MEND, launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND, and we need 7 more people in 8 minutes, inshallah.
Yeah, so give me that, because otherwise when my next presenters come on, and if they beat me, then I'm going to be really upset. So let me set a high target, inshallah, for them to beat. So once again, that's launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND. And all we're asking for today is a small £10 donation to help continue the work of MEND. COVID has hit many organizations difficultly financially, and we as MEND have also had our struggles as well, and we really need the support of our community. We are a 100% independent organization. We don't take any funds or grants from any kind of government bodies or other foundations. All our funding comes from the Muslim community. The £5 a month, the £10 a month, the £20 a month that you guys give are really what sustains the work of MEND. And so those small contributions seem small, but in the grand schemes, when so many people come together and support the work of MEND in that way, it allows us to remain independent. It allowed us to remain true to the needs of the Muslim community and really work in a way which hopefully is going to be of the most benefit for our community as well. So once again, it's launchgood.com/Ramadan MEND. And we're looking for 500 supporters today to give £10 a month in order that we can raise potentially £5,000 for the work of MEND. And we can continue the work that we do in political education, in lobbying within our community, assisting people who have been affected by Islamophobia, be that hate crime or be that discrimination. If that's the kind of work that you want to support, then definitely donate to the work of MEND. We spoke a few days ago about kind of charity giving, and we know that in Ramadan, a lot of members of our community give to various causes across the world. And you gave me a nice piece of advice that how we should look towards giving some of that donation towards projects in the UK as well. What was that advice that you have for our listener, and that advice you gave to me as well?
Okay, I mean, I think it's simple. Look, Muslims from Britain give millions and millions of pounds every year to good causes across the world. And I think that's important, and I think it should continue. We should continue to give those millions of pounds to all the good causes across the world that we give to. But at the same time, I think what we should do is set a figure for ourselves. And my opinion is we should set the figure of 10% to fight Islamophobia here in the UK. That if I'm giving, if my Ramadan giving this Ramadan is £500, then I'm going to give £50, 10% to fighting Islamophobia in the UK. If I'm going to be giving £1,000 in charity this Ramadan, then I need to give £100 of that 10% to fight Islamophobia here in the UK. Because if we don't fight Islamophobia, and if as a community, where if we don't fight it now whilst it's building, and we have to firefight in 5, 10, 15 years time, one, it will cost us so much more, and two, we may not be able to tackle it. If we get to the situation like they are in France now, it's our nearest neighbor, France. It's across the channel. You can get over in a ferry in an hour. If they've banned hijab for under 18-year-olds in public now. They've banned hijab in all public buildings and schools and courts and all of those sort of places. They've banned niqab everywhere for everyone. They've got a lot of schools across the country in France where Muslim children are being force-fed pork. Now, if you think it can't happen, it's just there in our neighbor, a Western European, supposedly democratic country. Though I think France's democratic credentials are now hugely under question. So we've got to ensure that us as a Muslim community here in Britain, we do that fight now to ensure that we don't become like that tomorrow. And the way to do that is to support the work of MEND in fighting Islamophobia. And you can do that today by donating on launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend. That's Ramadan, Ramadan, Ramadan Mend.
Yep, that's the link to everyone should be getting on now. And like Azubhai mentioned, 10%. I mean, if you're giving £100 this Ramadan, then £10 towards the work of MEND. And ironically, that's what we're asking for you today. Just give £10 to the work of MEND today, in order that we can carry on the work that we're doing, supporting communities tackle Islamophobia and assist our community when it comes to issues that are, whether it be sisters who have been verbally attacked or physically abused on the streets, whether it's massages who've been had pig heads left outside their doors, or whether it's a brother who clearly is being discriminated in his workplace or has been denied an interview or a work opportunity because he looks visibly Muslim. Then we're that organization that wants to change all of that. And if you want to help us in bringing about that change, then we need your support today in raising as much funds as we can to support the work of MEND. And once again, what I've said it so many times, and I'll say it one more time, is visit launchgood.com/Ramadan Mend and make a small contribution to the work of MEND. As we come to a close on the first hour of our fundraising, I want to give big thanks to our supporters who have shown us support via the Launch Good page, to Sumaya and Ghazala. And I'm hoping that many other listeners, and I know you're there, I know you're listening to Ramadan Radio this Ramadan, then we really encourage you. It's a very small thing that you have to do. You have to pick up your phone, go into that link, and donate £10 for the work of MEND. And if you want to dial in and speak about the work of MEND, if you have a question for us, or maybe you've been kind of had an issue of Islamophobia and you want some advice, then call us in. And the number to call is 077 614 60614. That's 077 614 60614. Now, in the next hour, you are going to be joined by our colleagues from our policy department within MEND. And they're going to be talking about what interesting work that they've been doing in the last year in terms of political lobbying and political advocacy on behalf of the Muslim community. and especially around COVID and around the issues that are affecting the Muslim community globally as well. So I hope you're going to join them and show them some support as well. And once again, encourage them. We encourage you to donate on launchgood.com/Ramadan Men. Encourage for those who are listening. Encourage your family, your friends to call in as well and support the men of work. Without further ado, I'd like to thank everyone who's been listening in the past hour. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for listening to me, Aman Ali, and my guest, Azhar Qayyum, who's the CEO of MEND. This has been Ramadan Radio 87.9 FM. Till after the break. Assalamu alaikum.